Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another of my favorite videos. We are duping a palette today, and again looking back at the dupes that I have picked before I had my hands on the palette, and then looking at how that went and what I would pick instead. Today we are talking about a palette that I don't own. This is the Melt Millennial Pinx. It has been lent to me by my friend Mariam here on YouTube. You can go check out her video on this palette of, I think she did a first impression and then a few months later tried it again to see how she liked it. I also tried it. I am wearing it on my eyes right now, and there is an IGTV on my Instagram page with my first impressions on the palette. And those will be probably the only impressions. I'm not gonna review it for longer. Pardon my lipstick going everywhere. But today we are taking a look at the inside of the palette and how to dupe it with single eyeshadows. This is what she looks like. The color scheme is not my favorite, and that is also why I didn't really feel tempted to buy the palette, but I had done a post on my Instagram where I picked some dupes for it just because I thought it would be useful for someone at some point. And today there's the opportunity to actually check those dupes against the palette and to see what is actually much closer. This palette has 5 shimmers and 5 mattes, and we're gonna start from the beginning and just go through the whole thing, swatching it on my arm. It's clean, no primer. I will be wiping it with a wet wipe and then drying it down with a towel so that there is no extra moisture on there. It's a bit cold here, so if you see goosebumps, that's why. Yeah, I have also no doors because we're working on the doors. It doesn't matter. So let's start. The first shade is Rosé Brunch, and it is quite a pretty duochrome. The formula is not so good. It's really difficult to apply both with your fingers because it's very chunky, as well as on the eyes, but this is what it looks like. I had picked Bouquet Toss from Colourpop as a dupe, and this is what that one looks like. So definitely didn't catch the right shift, but I have nothing that is actually going to go much closer to that shade. The shade in the palette has a bit of a more shift, whereas the one in my singles doesn't. You see it has a more light champagne pink shift, whereas this one has more of a pink shift. Next up is the first matte. It's called Pink Leather, and it looks much darker in the pan than it is in real life. It's quite a light, but still a bit warm pink. I had picked Say I Do by Colourpop, but this already in the pan looks much cooler toned and a little bit darker. And that is what it is right there. It is a very pretty shade, but it's not a dupe. Instead, what I found is a better dupe is Sorbet by Makeup Geek. Now this is one of the old shades that you might have already in your collection, but it's really close. It is a very light but warm toned pink. They're very difficult to show on my skin tone or on a light skin tone, but I hope you can see how similar it is. Yeah. Continuing with another matte, the next is Flamingo Dream. I love the names that they gave into this palette, and it is a bright corally pink matte. It's really bright, it's really beautiful, I really like it. I had picked Making Moves from Colourpop, but this one is definitely deeper and more orange than the one in the palette. So instead, the one in the palette is much closer to Flower Boy by Colourpop, and I'm swatching them horizontally because it's really difficult for me to swatch up here. But you can see that it's really similar to the one in the palette. So this is a much better dupe and quite close, I have to say. This is Flower Boy by Colourpop. Next up, another very pretty shimmer, but not a very good, well-performing shimmer either. that is the bottom line for me on this palette, is that they don't, the shimmers just don't perform very well. And again, quite a strong, like cooler tone shift. And I had picked from Colourpop again the shade Earth Shine, but you can see that this one has more of a blue shift to it rather than a pink. And it is a beautiful shade, Earth Shine, right here, but it has nothing to do with this eyeshadow palette. What I do have something that is almost spot on, but I don't know what it is. It's a pan that I think I probably made from TKB Trading pigments and just pressed them. I might have actually mixed a few shades to reach this pink, but it's very, very close. It's maybe a little bit deeper, but it's a very close shade. So unfortunately, I don't have a dupe for the shade Mixed Emotions in the palette. It's just a very pretty pink. I'm also not that into pinks, so I understand why I don't have dupes for the pinks. Next up is my favorite color in the palette. It's a matte and it's called Modern Love. Maybe I start on this side this time. And it's a beautiful mid-toned rose, dusty rose, maybe I can call it. And it's like so difficult to photograph because I think in camera now it shows up a little bit brighter than it is in real life. I have it in my crease today. It's gorgeous. And somehow in my brain, looking at photos, I had duped it with Crisscross by Colourpop. Now, Crisscross is pretty much like a burnt orange shade. Has absolutely nothing to do with Modern Love. No, not nothing. Like it's a different family. It's just not even close. What instead is close is actually a shade that I haven't used in a long time, which is Verve by Melt Cosmetics. These are their feather mattes. And they're so good, but I haven't used them in a long, long time. They feel in formula also quite similar to the Melt ones in this palette. And you can see maybe it's a touch deeper, but I think blending them on the eye, they're gonna be very, very similar. This is Verve by Nabla. Absolutely great dupe for this shade. And to be honest, that's the only shade in the palette that really interested me, together with the next one, which is a shimmer that's called Ruby Spar. I don't know why Spar and not like star, and also not really ruby. It's a shimmer. It's what I'm wearing on my lid right now. It is a mess. Okay, now can you see that chunks that are on there? It's a mess to apply. The only way I found that I could apply it is with a wet brush, and that's what I did on my eyes, because with my fingers and with a dry brush, I wasn't able to get any payoff, or very, very crumbly. I had, actually, if you can still see a bit of a red halo here, it's because of the fallout. Not very good. I really don't have anything like this in my collection. And it's really pretty. It's like a little bit more of a reddish base with this beautiful rose shift on top. It's so beautiful, really, really gorgeous. I think it looks really good with brown eyes also. I had duped it with Misty by Colourpop. Now, the shift is different, the depth is different. It's not the worst dupe in the world, but it's not close. Like maybe in the family, but it's a much lighter version with a cooler shift. What I found that is maybe a little bit more similar, but still not quite, is Pinky Promise by Colourpop, and it's this guy right here, but it's much more purple and less of that reddish burgundy right here. So I couldn't find a good dupe for Ruby Spar, unfortunately, and these two shades in the palette are the only thing really that would even remotely make me interested. And it's probably also shades that I would buy in singles or in a palette if I'd see them. So yeah, that one's that. Next up, another disaster formula, but a pretty color. It's called Pink Noise. And it's a duochrome with like a peachy shift. Used to be quite common, I think. You can see it. And I had, incorrectly, duped it with Ready or Yacht by Colourpop, which is just a straight up orangey peach shimmer. Not similar, the base is not similar, the shift is not similar. What is quite close is a discontinued shade from Makeup Geek, which I hope they'll bring back their duochromes in the near future. We miss them. They were really, really good. It's what made Makeup Geek unique. Is the shade I'm Peachless. Sorry, I got speechless. And here it is. The shift is maybe a bit stronger than the one in Melt, but it's the same idea. It's like a translucent base with a orange shift, peach shift. So very pretty. I have it in the inner corner today, so actually you can see that the shift is quite strong. Next up we have Moon Glow, which is the silver in this palette. Another awful formula. I keep trying to pick it up with my finger because it doesn't, and it's this shade right here. Like, I can't even get it on. And it's the same matter if you try to do that with a brush. And then let me show you my dupe, which is On a Whimsy by Colourpop. I'm gonna show you this and this. Like, this is what I want a metallic silver to do. It's unbelievable. It's so metallic, it's so beautiful, and it's maybe a touch cooler tones than the one in the palette, but this is a silver, period. This is a silver. I don't understand this palette, to be honest, or the formulas that they chose to put for their shimmers. How are they doing this and passing quality control? I know that there's been more and more issues with quality control and Melt Cosmetics eyeshadows, but I really can't imagine this being put for sale somewhere. Anyways, here are these shades, and I have two more. I'm just gonna switch hands. We have, the last two are the dark grays. The first one is GF, which is this guy right here, and it's what I'm wearing on my outer crease today, outer V. It's quite a cool toned gray, and I had a bit of trouble finding a dupe. The one that I had picked without having the palette was Smoke Signal by Makeup Geek. These are the new square pans that were gifted to me by the brand, and it is a similar gray, but it's more neutral. So it's less blue. You can really see how blue toned that shade in the palette is. And unfortunately, I don't have anything like it. The other blue toned gray that Makeup Geek used to have is much lighter. Is it Concrete Jungle maybe? It's much lighter. And then the final shade in the palette, the shade Euphoria, which looks like a very deep blue gray, is actually a black. I have no idea. I used it a little bit as an eyeliner today on my upper lash line. It's a black. I had picked Corrupt from Makeup Geek, the old version, which is the blackest best black I own. And I have to be very careful because it's very black. And you can see that, yeah, maybe the Melt Cosmetics one is not as black. And I would also then give you a Nabla Pitch Black instead, because it is a bit less black than Corrupt. It's maybe less, yeah, less pitch black, a little bit more closer, or much closer to Euphoria in the palette, for a more blendable black. It's one of these, you can build the color easier. It's a different formula compared to the Makeup Geek one. Plus, I don't know, I mean, I think I heard that the new Makeup Geek black, also called Corrupt, but that is among now the Power Pigment line, isn't as good as this one was. So if you still have a Corrupt from Makeup Geek in the round pans, hold on to it with all your might if you like black eyeshadow. I almost never use them. But this was the video. This was the dupes of the Millennial Pinx palette by Melt Cosmetics. This is again what she looks like. Again, the only thing that interests me in this palette are these two shades, which are on this hand right now. It's the only thing, but I don't like the way they built on that color story with a gray, because it kind of really, I don't like it. I prefer tone on tone, or I don't know. I don't like the color story, and I don't like the shimmer. So I agree with Mariam that this palette just is off. There's something wrong with it, and the mattes are nice. If I were her, I would probably depot the shimmers, forget about them, and use the mattes in combination with something else from Melt, like stuff in the, I don't know, any other of the palettes of Melt that are all depotable and magnetic. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this duping video. Let me know what your thoughts are on the palette. Did you buy it when it released? Are you still interested, and did these dupes actually help you to pick something else? I know not all of these eyeshadows are still available. I'm gonna look for them and link them in the description box if they are. Otherwise, check your collection, see what you have. At this point, I'm not following or like keeping up with Colourpop's releases of singles, even though I'm expecting a package from them. Or like I bought some singles from Colourpop. And it's a little bit difficult to know which ones are still available and which ones not, because Colourpop has just such a high turnaround. Anyways, thank you for watching. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and subscribe to my channel if you're not already. Let me know what other palette you'd like me to dupe, and if I have it or someone I know has it, I will do that gladly. See you in my next one. Bye guys.